One thing I've said before, which I'll say again, is that I'm a huge horror fan. I'd heard a lot about the Project Zero franchise, aka Fatal Frame, which honestly makes much more sense as the title, and I played Project Zero 2 Crimson Butterfly on the Wii, which I quite enjoyed. When I saw the trailer for Maiden of Black Water, it looked amazing, so I pre-ordered the collector's edition and picked it up on release day. Almost 5 years later, I finally got around to giving the game a go. Ultimately, the game was everything I'd hoped it would be. The story revolves around Hikami Mountain, a well-known suicide spot, and a mystery involving the Shrine Maidens that used to reside there, who would guide people to a peaceful death. So when people go missing, you are asked to find them, but end up discovering how it's all connected to keeping the Maiden of Black Water imprisoned there. There are 3 characters you play as: Yuri, Ren and Miu, who investigate sections of the mountain. As you travel around, you find journal entries and see visions of the past, which gradually piece together the truth behind the rituals and the events that occurred on the mountain. You get the good old camera obscura to battle against malevolent spirits, and the WiiU gamepad acts as your camera. Each ghost has weak points and you move the pad to adjust what fits in frame. The more weak points you manage to capture, the more damage you do. If you take a photo just as a ghost is attacking you, which is known as a fatal frame, you can take multiple shots in quick succession. One thing I really like is that once a ghost is defeated, you can run up to it and touch it before it vanishes to get a fatal glance, which shows you a memory of what happened to the person that caused them to end up the way they are. You earn points which you can use to purchase extra items or upgrade the camera, so you can get benefits like shortened load times, but there are also multiple lenses which have different abilities and they can also be upgraded. I had the game on normal and I wasn't finding it particularly difficult, but once I found the lens that heals me every time I damage a ghost, I was pretty much invincible. The game is divided into 14 missions, and after each mission you get a grade depending on how well you did, and I got an A lot more than I was expecting to. I hardly died, and most of those were either at the final boss or at a place where survival was literally down to random chance. You have to run away from the Maiden of Black Water, but she appears randomly on the route you are running through, and if you touch her it's an instant death. The problem is that she can literally appear right in front of you. This happened multiple times even if I went a different route, and honestly I was close to giving up. I looked up if there was a trick I was missing, and the responses were a case of, no, it's pretty much just random chance. I gave it a few more tries, and on about my 8th or 9th attempt I was able to make it. That was the only part of the game that could go screw itself. The game certainly has its creepy moments. There were some places I went to that were a whole heap of nope, but the game recycles areas quite often, so the creepiness of an area kind of fades once you run through it 3 or 4 times. Even so, there was enough going on to keep me on edge pretty much all the time. I never needed to buy any extra items because there are plenty of pickups all over the place. There's always this animation when you go to pick something up. It happened in Crimson Butterfly, so I'm guessing it's a series staple, and there's a chance a hand will try and grab you if you don't let go of the button before it does. It's an okay idea, but it happens so infrequently, it ended up becoming more of an annoyance having to watch the pickup animation so many times when the likelihood of something happening was so low. Maybe it happens more on harder difficulties, I don't know, but even so, it gets old very quickly. Weirdly, one part I absolutely loved was later in the game when Ren installed a load of CCTV cameras and you had to look at what was going on. It was really freaky going from room to room seeing what ghosts and nasties were popping up almost literally outside the door. I've seen a lot of horror films and played a fair few horror games, so I could kinda guess certain things that were going to happen, but it was still a hugely tense section of the game that I thoroughly enjoyed.
You will not escape.
Once you finish the 14-chapter main story, there are 4 extra chapters involving Ayami from Dead or Alive, but it seems she was only added as fan service, so I didn't really bother with that section. Even so, I very much enjoyed playing Maiden of Black Water. Granted, it was slightly lacking in scares, but it still had a great atmosphere, some nice puzzles, good characters, and an interesting story. I'd happily play the game again, and I very much hope there's another Project Zero game on the Switch.